Episode 3, Shadows of the Past, written by Benedict Cumberbatch. The letter. Rain lashed against the windows of my Baker Street flat, a real pea souper out there. I was halfway through a rather interesting treatise on the migratory patterns of the lesser-spotted woodpecker when Mrs. Hudson, bless her cotton socks, barged in. "Telegram, Mr. Holmes," she announced, her voice unusually flustered. The telegram was crisp, urgent, summoned me to a remote manor in Yorkshire. A Mr. Alistair Crowley begged my assistance. Intrigued, I packed my trusty pipe and magnifying glass. Yorkshire was a long way to travel for a woodpecker. The train journey was uneventful. The rhythmic clatter of the rails a soothing counterpoint to the storm raging outside. As we pulled into the station, a cold, damp wind slapped me in the face. Yorkshire wasn't known for its sunny disposition. The old manor. Crowley Manor loomed out of the mist, a brooding Gothic edifice perched precariously on a windswept moor. Gargoyles leered from the rooftops, their grimaces mirroring the churning in my gut. Something about this place whispered of forgotten tragedies, of secrets buried deep. Alistair Crowley greeted me at the door, a frail, haunted-looking man with eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. He ushered me into a dimly lit drawing room, the air thick with the scent of beeswax and impending doom. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Holmes," Crowley rasped, his voice hoarse with strain. "I fear something truly dreadful has happened." He went on to explain that his brother, Edgar, had been found dead in his study 3 days prior. The local constabulary had ruled it a suicide, but Alistair was convinced it was murder. A chilling discovery. The study was just as Crowley had described it, a chaotic mess of books, papers, and strange artifacts. The air was heavy with the pungent aroma of pipe tobacco and the faint, cloying scent of bitter almonds. A chill ran down my spine. Cyanide. Edgar Crowley lay sprawled across his desk, his face contorted in a silent scream. The room was a tableau of death, frozen in time. I carefully examined the scene, my mind racing. The suicide note, scrawled in a shaky hand, seemed unconvincing, almost forced. My gaze fell on a silver-framed photograph lying on the floor, its glass shattered. It depicted 2 young men, their arms slung around each other's shoulders, their smiles bright and carefree. Alistair and Edgar in happier times. Secrets in the walls. Over the next few days, I immersed myself in the investigation, determined to uncover the truth hidden within the manor's ancient walls. I spoke to the staff, interviewed the few locals who dared venture near the manor, and meticulously examined every inch of the study, leaving no stone unturned. The deeper I delved, the more convinced I became that Edgar Crowley's death was no suicide. There was something far more sinister at play. The manor itself seemed to whisper secrets, its walls echoing with the voices of the past. I discovered hidden passages, eavesdropped on hushed conversations, and unearthed a history steeped in darkness and deceit, a tale that had been buried for generations. The Crowley family, I learned, was plagued by a long-forgotten curse, a tale whispered in hushed tones by the fireside, a curse that seemed to haunt their every step. It seemed that centuries ago, the first Crowley had made his fortune through ruthless means, acquiring the manor and its surrounding lands through treachery and bloodshed, leaving a trail of sorrow in his wake. The legend went that a scorned lover had cursed the family, vowing that their ill-gotten gains would be their undoing, a curse that would echo through the ages, haunting each generation. A family torn apart. The family was a tangled web of relationships, each member harboring their own secrets and resentments, their lives intertwined in ways that were both complex and dangerous. There was Agatha, Edgar's embittered widow, her beauty now faded, her eyes cold and calculating. She had lost more than a husband. She had lost her status, her security, and perhaps even her sanity. Then there was Charles, Alistair's estranged son, a brooding young man with a quick temper and a penchant for gambling debts. His anger was a smouldering fire, always on the verge of erupting. And let's not forget the enigmatic housekeeper, Mrs. Grimshaw, her face a mask of impassivity, her eyes missing nothing. She moved through the house like a ghost, silent and ever watchful. Each one had a motive, each a possible suspect. Their interactions were a dance of deception, each step carefully measured, each word a potential weapon. I observed them all, noting their reactions, their alibis, the subtle tells that betrayed their carefully constructed facades. It was a game of cat and mouse, and I was determined to uncover the truth. The tension in the house was palpable, a suffocating blanket of suspicion and fear. Every glance, every whisper, added to the growing sense of dread. As the investigation progressed, I uncovered a series of increasingly disturbing events that had plagued the Crowleys in recent years. Each revelation was more shocking than the last. Accidents, strange illnesses, whispers of madness, all attributed to the curse that hung over the family like a shroud. It was as if the house itself was alive, feeding on their misery. Or was it something more sinister, something more human? A malevolent force that thrived on their suffering, lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike again. The missing heirloom. One clue in particular piqued my interest. Alistair mentioned an heirloom, a ruby necklace of immense value that had belonged to their mother. It had gone missing from the manor shortly before Edgar's death. Coincidence? I thought not. My investigations led me to a shady pawnbroker in London, a man who dealt in secrets as much as stolen goods. He confirmed that the necklace had indeed been pawned, but the seller was not who I expected. It was Mrs. Grimshaw, the seemingly innocuous housekeeper. But why? What was her connection to Edgar's death? The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place, but the picture they formed was still frustratingly unclear. A web of lies. I confronted Mrs. Grimshaw. She confessed to stealing the necklace, claiming she had been desperate. Her daughter was ill, she said, and she needed the money for her treatment. But her eyes, those windows to the soul, betrayed something deeper, a darkness that belied her words. Under further questioning, the truth unraveled. Mrs. Grimshaw had been Edgar Crowley's lover. He had promised her the world, but when she revealed she was pregnant, he cast her aside, fearing a scandal. Desperate, she had taken the necklace, hoping to secure her future and that of her child. But Edgar's death, she swore, had nothing to do with her. She had simply been a pawn in a much larger, more sinister game. Someone had known about their affair, someone who had used it to their advantage. The weight of suspicion now fell on Charles, Alistair's son. Driven by gambling debts and resentment towards his uncle, who he believed had cheated him out of his inheritance, Charles had motive and opportunity. But something didn't feel right. The evidence, while circumstantial, pointed towards Charles, but my gut, honed by years of solving the most baffling crimes, told me otherwise. There was something else at play, a deeper game afoot. I gathered everyone in the drawing room. The tension was thicker than the Yorkshire fog rolling in from the moors. It was time to lay my cards on the table. Edgar Crowley did not commit suicide, I announced, my voice echoing in the stunned silence. He was murdered. And the killer, I continued, my gaze sweeping over the assembled faces, is someone you all know very well. The room held its breath. In a dramatic reveal, I unmasked the true culprit. It wasn't Charles nor Mrs. Grimshaw. It was Agatha, Edgar's seemingly grief-stricken widow. Behind her facade of mourning, she was a woman scorned, driven to desperate measures by a thirst for revenge. Her sorrow was nothing but a mask. Agatha, I revealed, had discovered Edgar's infidelity and in a fit of jealous rage had poisoned him. She had meticulously planned every detail. She had then cleverly forged the suicide note and staged the scene to point towards suicide. Her cunning knew no bounds. The motive, as I uncovered, ran deeper than a simple love affair. It was about power, control, and greed. Agatha, I revealed, was not who she claimed to be. She had a dark past. She was a con artist, a master manipulator who had set her sights on Edgar Crowley and his fortune. Her deception was flawless. She had played the dutiful wife, all the while plotting her way into his life and ultimately his demise. Her true intentions were hidden behind a veil of lies. With the truth revealed, Agatha crumbled. She confessed to her crimes, her carefully constructed facade shattering into a million pieces. Justice, as it always did, had prevailed, but not without a sense of melancholy. The curse of the Crowleys, it seemed, had claimed another victim. As I boarded the train back to London, the image of the grim manor receding into the distance, I couldn't shake the feeling that some secrets are best left buried. Some shadows, no matter how brightly the sun shines, refuse to be outrun. And that, my dear listeners, is the tale of Episode 3, Shadows of the Past. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more thrilling mysteries. Until next time.